15% body fat is really simple. Just eat less and move more. But wait, because 74% of the USA are still overweight or obese. So clearly something isn't working because simple and easy aren't the same thing. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how simple the process actually is and why most men who are already training and eating healthy are stuck above that 20% body fat for years. There's an ongoing war with the keto and carnivore guys versus the carb eaters versus the vegans and the flexible dieters and whatever else is the new diet of the month. The intermittent fasting guys believe that they've hacked their biology just by skipping breakfast. And everyone is arguing that their approach is the one thing standing between you and a six-pack. And the problem is they're all kind of right, but they're also wrong. Because in 2018, Stanford University ran a clinical trial called Diet Fit, where they had 609 overweight adults, and one group went low fat, the other went low carb, and they tracked them for 12 months. And at the end of the year, there was no statistically significant difference in weight loss between these two groups. So technically, it doesn't matter whether you cut carbs or you cut fats. What mattered was that both groups were eating less than what they were actually burning. That is the mechanism which applies to every diet. Keto works when it's in a deficit. The same with the vegan, paleo, Whole30, fasting, etc. They all work when it's in a deficit. So the actual diet you do is really just a method to get you to your goal, because under the hood, they're all creating a deficit. So it's important to also protect your muscle mass while you do this and not pick a diet that is going to hinder your workouts and force your body to break down muscle for more energy that you're not getting from food. However, I know others might be thinking, if it's just that simple, then why have I been stuck with the same body fat for 2 years, 10 years, however long it's been? And that is the right question, because for most men who are already putting in the effort, the gap isn't going to be more effort or a new diet protocol that you've never heard of. The gap is everything that gets in the way of actually doing it and the obstacles that you can't see. And if that's exactly where you are right now, that is the gap that we fix in the first couple of weeks with the men I work closely with. If you want to learn more, link is below the video in the description. But first, let's talk about what those obstacles actually are. This first obstacle is the most obvious, but most guys don't always factor it in. I'm talking about your calendar, travel, your work schedule, you have client dinners, you have late nights where you're still answering emails at 9 p.m. And the easiest thing in the world to do is to open the fridge or the pantry. So the deficit math is very simple on paper or on an AI software or whatever, but it gets complicated fast when you have a 50-hour work week and then Friday night dinner and then you didn't plan for it and then family commitments and then Sunday catch-ups and all these things always going on. And unlike your work, there's no one checking in on your health homework. Your business or your profession has KPIs, you have reporting and accountability and team watching these numbers. But if your diet has none of that, it's easy to slip up. And then by 7 p.m., after a full day of decisions and stress and pressure, your empty willpower is the last thing standing between you and whatever is on the plate in front of you. Now, that is not a weakness. That is just the brain being overloaded every day and then having too many temptations. And this is why men who stay consistent don't rely on willpower at 7 p.m. They've already made the decision the night before based on what they're going to eat and when. Then there's the biological side of this, which most men don't even think about. The more body fat you're carrying and the less muscle you have, the harder it actually is, not just mentally, but chemically, because body fat, particularly your visceral fat around the midsection and your organs, is actively working against your hormones. The aromatase within this belly fat is converting testosterone into estrogen, which means the fatter you are, the harder it is to build the muscle that would actually help you speed up this fat loss process. And it compounds against you. The more muscle you gain, the more fat you lose, the faster you will recover your testosterone levels. And then there's sleep. In 2004, researchers at the University of Chicago ran a controlled study on sleep restriction in healthy men. Just 2 nights of poor sleep dropped the leptin, that is your I'm full hormone, levels by 18%, and raised ghrelin, that's your I'm hungry hormone, by 28%. And then hunger went up by 24%, and the appetite for calorie dense, high carb foods increased by 33 to 45%. So before you've even made a single conscious decision about your food for the day, your biology is already working against you. And it's working hardest against the men who are the most stressed, most sleep deprived, and carrying the most body fat with a low muscle mass, which is exactly the profile of the man who needs this the most. And this biology compounds a mindset problem that's been there from the beginning. And on top of that, most men have never actually seen their real biofeedback data. They've never tracked properly for even 1 week. So the calorie deficit isn't actually proven for their reality. It's just an assumption. Assumptions aren't going to cut it to get down to 15% body fat and even below that. You can't just eat healthy and think that something magical is going to happen for you. Otherwise, everyone would already be ripped right now. And then there is the mindset layer, which is one that most people aren't honest about. And most men approach this like a switch. Sunday, they're at 1%. And then Monday, they're at 100% with a new diet, new program, full commitment, no exceptions. And this works for maybe 2 weeks until work and life get in the way yet again. And then they're back at the 1%, waiting for the next perfect moment to go back into 100%, max all that effort yet again. The thing is, the men who actually get to 15% and stay there, they don't do it that way. They make gradual shifts that most people aren't even noticing, and they're not making a big deal about it. Small, consistent adjustments that are not dramatic, they don't disrupt their entire life, and they don't require a perfect Monday to begin this cycle again and again. Things like adding one consistent meal every day, having 2 to 3 reliable workouts that you can fit in no matter where you are, and one simple daily movement habit holds everything even during a bad week. Now, yes, this is a slower approach, but this is a stable and sustainable approach that actually finishes the job. And I can tell you this because I see almost the same pattern across hundreds of men that I've worked with over the past 10 years. And here's what I know about the man who comes to me who is still stuck. He's already tried probably more than once. And in simple terms, he knows what to do. He's disciplined in work, business, looking after the kids, loving his wife, and how he runs everything. But when he catches himself in the mirror, there's still this gap between how he looks and the standard he holds in all these other areas of life. And in the back of his mind is that quiet voice that says, maybe this is just what happens at my age and there's nothing I can do about it. But that's not true. That is a story that guys are telling themselves to avoid fixing the actual problem. So the men who get to 15% and stay there stop identifying as someone who is trying and trying to lose fat and trying to find the perfect diet, and they just become the kind of man who runs his health like a system the same way he does in everything else in his life. This is not a discipline problem, it is a systems malfunction. And if you've been in that cycle, losing a bit, gaining it back, trying different diets, falling off the wagon, then another year of that is just going to give you the same results with the same approach. Because many things can work, but if they're not going to last, it's just another waste of time. And if that sounds familiar, the chances are you don't have a system built around your actual life. And the men I work with were already training, already trying different diets, or they even had personal trainers, yet stuck, frustrated, repeating those same cycles. So within a couple of weeks of implementing the right structure, things that once felt very complicated for a very long time started becoming clear and obvious and simple to fix. And if you're ready to fix this properly, the link for my method and one-on-one coaching is in the description. It is not for everyone, but if you're serious, that is exactly who it's built for. Now, after you tap that link below, then go watch this video about what men's body fat percentages really look like.